Hi, welcome to This Week in Gender, where in 10 minutes or less, we talk about gender.
Whatever the topics of the day are. So, Carlos, I'm super excited. I've been thinking about it.
Me too.
And wondering, should we start with your topic or should we start with my topic?
We should start by introducing ourselves.
Let's do that first.
That would help. My name is Carlos. I'm the manager of online programming and community development here at Gender Spectrum.
And I'm not. Lisa Kenny, Executive Director at Gender Spectrum. And are we ready to start with
We're
my
ready.
topic?
Sorry.
All right, all right, we're going to start with my topic. So my topic is deals a little bit with language and some of the sort of the umbrella of the LGBT. So this weekend on Sunday in the Times Magazine, it was an education issue. So it was really interesting. It had lots of great content, a topic we obviously think a lot about around here. And so one of the articles, and I do not have it perfectly down, so please forgive me on that, but it basically said, what's the experience of the LGBT kids, and will it get better? The will it get better part, I think, is actually in there, but it definitely was LGBT. And then, so I thought, I'm interested in checking this out. And the net of it is, it sort of starts talking about the CDC study that came out last week. Huge sample size, great study, very interesting data, sad. Okay, just sad data because obviously we want to think that LGBT kids are in a great place in high schools today, and they're not. That's a train. We have a train in our office, so there we go. Anyway, but I keep waiting for the T part of that story, and then right towards the beginning of the story, they acknowledge, oh yeah, that's right. There actually was no opportunity for any of those kids to identify as transgender or non-binary. And so really it's about LGBT kids and probably actually really LG kids. And it just got me thinking about, the situation where lots of times these issues are dismissed around gender in school because we get into saying, well, how many kids are we really talking about? And yet we don't accept that we fundamentally actually don't use any language that youth would identify with where they could provide this information. But then we use that as a justification to see, we're not really talking about that many kids, so I guess we don't need to do anything. And it's a cyclical issue. And it's really, really sad because what we do know is that these kids are really experiencing great difficulty in their schools and then going on and maybe harming themselves and other kinds of things. So it's really sad that this is going on, and even sadder that we don't take this seriously and figure out what is it that we're going to do about it. So I was really struck by, because the other interesting thing about this story was, as the Times writer is going on, one of the things that comes up is that then they say, well, so I'm going to give some lived experiences, and they contacted some LGBT centers and did some interviews with kids. And what's interesting is in the three examples, you really get a sense that there's a gender narrative in there as well, which we don't address, although they do, because one of the things, I think it was the last one was, one of the things they realized is that they weren't gay, that they're actually trans.
Okay.
And we know that's a different topic for another day, but we know that's a really common experience. So anyway, I was really struck by, again, the ways in which we put under a single umbrella this experience of sexual orientation and gender identity, and that we think of this as a single experience and that these are sort of the same thing. We know, in fact, they're not the same thing.
Right.
That sexual orientation is a different issue for kids and a very important identity as well. And gender is a different experience. And we have to stop putting them under the same umbrella and also taking the same paradigms and metaphors and beliefs about sexual orientation, which we tend to know quite a bit more about in our society, than gender, and applying them to gender, because sometimes they fit, but more often than not, they don't. And so I was really struck by this article. Again, a great attempt by the Times. It's not a way to diss them in any way, but it's a complex thing, but we need to really stop coupling these, and we need to start uncoupling.
Of course, and I think, and I'm not sure if you saw, but over the weekend, or it might have been last week, they posted that they're hiring a gender editor.
No, I didn't know.
So that'll be interesting
That'll be
see
interesting.
how that kind of plays out and how that carries over into the reporting that they're doing and how they're covering stories like this.
Well, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's the way that traditional media is trying to get caught up on some of these issues. I mean, the truth is, in my experience, and I think we all, at least here in Gender Spectrum, all feel this way, the people in media, if you will, that are covering this topic best, Teen Vogue.
Yes.
Teen Vogue, the digital wellness editor at Teen Vogue is doing a phenomenal job in bringing these issues and just looking at gender constructs and these ideas about gender. So I think they're doing a terrific job. Maybe they should give her a call over at the Times. But there's a real need for that. So anyway, that's exciting.
Great. Okay. All right.
All right. Your topic.
It's related to advertising.
Oh, all right.
This is in no way an endorsement of the advertiser, the person who's advertising the product. When you think Bud Light, think of the image that comes to mind. Who drinks Bud Light? That kind of idea, right?
Right.
So, as you may know, since the Super Bowl, Bud Light has created this new ad campaign called the Bud Light Party campaign.
With Seth Rogen and Amy Schumer.
Exactly,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
So it's satirical, it's a election year, they're pointing fun at America's divided, and it shouldn't be. Everyone loves beer, and the beer that everyone should drink to bring everyone together is Bud Light. That's the premise.
I like the premise. Yeah. I mean, if I was Bud Light, that would be my premise too, I think.
So I have some notes here because it was really interesting when I saw it. I was like, I want to talk about that with This Week in Gender because they've addressed issues of gay marriage. They've addressed issues of equal pay. Again, it's this idea of, well, it is a campaign, an election year, so we're going to kind of point to issues that are going on, and we're going to advertise our product in doing that. And I think they've been fairly tasteful in doing it.
As tasteful as probably Seth Rogen and Amy Schumer can be. I love them both. I'm just saying,
Right. I mean, that's why they got them.
Yeah.
So it's not too serious, but it's also.
Yeah.
They're two people who are really popular right now. Comedians. It's really interesting. The ad itself, Amy Schumer and Seth Rogen are talking about gender. They're talking about beer, bringing everyone together. There's a scene where they say like men and women, and then they're at a rodeo on horses, and Amy Schumer says something like, and everyone in between, because gender really is a spectrum.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
Which is great because it's pointing to kind of the zeitgeist of where we are culturally of gender identity, gender politics, gender expression. So I thought that was really interesting, and they've also the transgender media director at GLAAD, which
is an awesome guy.
And if you're not familiar with GLAAD at Home, it's the Gay and Lesbian Association Against Defamation. Alliance.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Amazing organization, does amazing work.
Right.
They've come out in support of this ad, saying that it's great that Bud Light shows support for the transgender community. It makes a difference. There's a cameo from an out trans actor by the name of Ian Harvey that makes an appearance in the ad. So again, I think it's very telling of what advertisers are doing in terms of kind of tapping into what's happening right now.
Well, it's a great example too, Carlos. I mean, in the corporate work that we do, one of the things that we try to help organizations look at not only just their internal policies, but also looking at products and services and the way that we gender our messaging, which really is about gender constructs in ways that really aren't as real as we think they are. And in fact, we leave whole segments out there because in fact, when our definition of a man or a woman really just doesn't fit that box. And in fact, we could probably be selling a lot more product if we looked at the way in which we're doing that and we stopped doing it. And so what a great example. I love the idea of that ad, and a great example of a way in which you're trying to say, hey, listen, we just want to sell beer, right? And at the end of the day, they don't care what your gender is, right? Great. I love that example.
Okay, so that's it for gender, but I know that we have an announcement.
Well, we do have an example. We have a great thing we do actually want to talk about. So maybe not yet catching the world by storm, but certainly in our little world, it is. And that is our book that's actually coming out this week, Transgender Teen. Stephanie Brill and I wrote this book, and we wrote it. Stephanie also did Transgender Child. Some of you may know that book. And the reason we wrote it was to really help parents, and really coming back to this issue about language. And how do we really help people, adults in particular, understand what's going on? There's a generational divide in our understanding of gender, and what do we do about that? And how do we help as parents and professionals, and really just all of us, all the adults, what do we do? And I think one of the things that really struck me and why I thought the book was so important to do was, I think we've become really complacent around the suicidality statistics of trans and non-binary youth. To think that nearly half, at least 40+%, depending on which studies you're looking at, will attempt suicide during their lifetime, more so when they're younger. And of course, I mean, it's a horrifying thought. And I think one of the things that happens to many parents and a lot of adults is, it's like, well, but I don't know what to do about that. And one of the things we want to say is, actually, there's a lot we can do about it. It's a complex issue. There is no one answer, but we do know this. Researchers also tells us that 93% of teens who identified that they had strongly supportive parents do not attempt suicide.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when we're looking at what can we do, yeah, it's a complex issue and there are a lot of variables. There is no one thing and there's no guarantee. But as a parent or as an adult who cares about teens, this is really something that we all need to take seriously, and it's what we've tried to accomplish in the Transgender Teen. So if you're trying to understand what's going on with teens and gender and bridging this divide, please take a look at the book. It comes out this week. It's available on Amazon and, as they say, a bookstore near you. But anyway, we're really excited about it. We hope you'll take a look at it. Pretty excited about it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So next week, topics.
Yeah, we'll figure out what we're going to talk about next week. This week,
and then we'll talk about it again next week.
Yeah.
So we're excited about it. Thanks for joining us this week. It's a lot of fun. Thanks, Carlos.
Yeah, of course. Take care.
All right, take care. Talk to you next week.